Hey everybody, thanks for checking out my weekly stream. This is the 43rd week 43. Current project I'm working on is making my operating system in JavaScript in the browser. Maybe I'll call it a replica operating system or a clone, I guess. Just trying to copy lots of different aspects and make it kind of neat. Went with kind of a Windows 10 styling, definitely, but a lot of the stuff it does is not necessarily Windows 10ish. This is a live stream, by the way, so feel free to throw some comments in the live chat if you have any questions or comments or anything like that. And if you're checking this out after the fact, feel free to put some comments in there, and I respond to all comments. So if you have any comments, concerns, questions, that kind of stuff, throw them in there. And if you like this video, if you like my past videos and you want to just keep supporting me, feel free to throw me a like. And if you want to keep track of these videos, know when they're getting posted, that kind of thing, subscribe. And then I've got you. Then we're latched on together, and you'll know what's up. I think there's like a little bell icon thing you can press too to get a little more notification there too. Yeah, today powered by the Red Bull, the watermelon one. Got a message here already from Abrar22. Add Diablo. I should. I've been thinking about it. I actually have. I know about it. There's a Diablo scripted one. Diablo Web. Yeah, this character right here. So this one right here I could probably get with the Play Shareware version. I think it's a really big file is one of my concerns. But like this is in a browser and I'm playing Diablo right now. So it's absolutely possible. I could take this and put this in a window. And it's pretty quick. I mean, look how quickly I got into it. So I'll post this link in the chat for anyone interested, and it's on my list, definitely. It's actually no, do I have it on the board? I don't know if I have it on my board, but let's make a note in the stream notes right now about that then. Jump over to my code right now, and in the next stream, just for notes, I'll say add Diablo by request. And I'll note of that link. This Diablo web is basically the way I would have to do it, I think. I don't know of another way right now, but definitely could be done, so it's on my list. And on my list for today, what we're going to do is we're going to do the Space Cadet one that I showed from last episode. If we take a peek at it now, so it's basically a full version of the Windows Space Cadet converted to WebAssembly. And today we're gonna put this app in my OS app. And this is my OS, by the way, with console log open on the side here. And as you can see, we got various windows. This is the file explorer for folder structure. We have start menus. We got Monaco editor for different types of text files. We got a x86 emulator here that can run something like Calibri or Linux, whatever you happen to want. It also does snapshots to keep track of where you were within the emulators. Got Doom in here as well. That's actually a DOS emulator, so you could have lots of different games in there. It also takes a snapshot of that one too. Got the ability to open compressed files. Got if you hover over taskbar entries, we got the peak effect. That's an animated effect too, so if we're doing some video. Oh, what happened here? Oh, maybe because I had the snapshot open. Yeah, file is a directory. It's an interesting bug. I guess I should note that. Yeah, so I had the zip file open, and it tried to read it as a zip file, but it was currently mounted. So I know about this. I know about this bug. I've never actually recreated it, but I guess I suspected it. Let's add it to the next stream. So can't read zip/ISO files when they are mounted. I don't have an idea at the moment how to avoid that, but I think it's possible. It's just the way the file system's set up right now, and it kind of explodes when that fails. I think it's just in dev environment that it explodes. I feel like in production it wouldn't do that because that Next.js stuff wouldn't happen. So we'll see. What other ones we got? Yeah, I mean we got a bunch of stuff, but let's get to the doing of the stuff. So this week was another slow one. I don't know if there's a trend going on. I've just felt slow the last few weeks. I'm not sure what it is. My family's kind of getting over a cold right now. My daughter brought from my 5-year-old daughter. We all got a bit sick, and quite a few people in the school got sick, but it looks like it's just the flu going around. So I actually didn't get it too bad, but maybe that's why I'm slow. So I've only did 17 commits this episode, so it should be pretty quick to get through. This one I'm not even going to use. This is a fun one, though. Unfinished agent. Without showing you what it is, well, I mean, I can show you what it is. It's basically this Clippy.js guy. So that's another thing I want to add. I haven't figured out how to. I mean, I've got it working here, but it still is a little bit like it shows up like a taskbar entry, and I don't want that because it's kind of like a little floating guy. So I'd almost prefer to have it in the system tray. But one problem with that is that I don't have a system tray, so that's on the board. I need to make a system tray to have the little icons beside the clock. But it's pretty cool. Like I was gonna do the Merlin one. Here he is right here, floating around. And you can get him to say whatever you want and do all these different actions. So I could link it with a bunch of the different apps if I wanted. And when someone opens the assistant, it could just interact with them. Like it could even point at specific positions because you can get it to point. And I know the positions of where the windows happen to be at the time. So he can be like, you got to use this one and do that and this. And I could even possibly link it in with some kind of more advanced artificial intelligence thing that just speaks through this assistant. Because you can do text bubbles and do different chat and have conversations. It also has classic Clippy, of course, which everyone knows. So I'd probably have to have Clippy as well here. At least Clippy, Merlin. These probably are the three I'd have. Clippy, Merlin, and Rover. I think they have the most actions too. And they all come from this Microsoft agent. But it's just like a copy, as he says here, implementation. I believe the agent files are using the same resources, like the same pictures to do all of these different animations. But it's pretty straightforward to set up. I mean, one unfortunate thing is you need jQuery. But once you get jQuery loaded, you load this Clippy, you load the CSS file here, and then you just run this basic command, these two commands, the Clippy load, pick your agent, and then you say agent show. That's about it. And then you can just do all these different things. You can animate him. Like I said, you can tell him to go to specific positions and to gesture to specific positions. So it could be pretty fun. Fun little addition. Might get that one in at some point. I mean, I will. I've got it. Proof of concept right there. But for now, let's start with the fixes. So TinyMCE drag drop fix. Right. So if we open up TinyMCE, one little thing I'd note, or maybe it's two little issues actually. One of them, so let's say I take a file here and I want to drag it on. I can't drag it into the text area. As you see there, there's that little black X. Over here I can, and if I drop it, I don't know what'll happen. That's, I think, the other bug. So there was two bugs. If you open it without ever having a file running, like you just open it blank like that, and then you try to drag a file to the top bar, it doesn't load properly. So the two issues are, actually half loaded properly. So it errored, but it did actually load the content. There's the content right there of that shortcut file. And it did switch to design mode so that it's just showing it. And it actually updated the title as well. So it just basically this error we're going to fix, and the fact that we can't drag into this spot here. The reason we can't drag into this text area is because for TinyMCE, this is actually an iframe. So we have to add like a... Well, let's just see how I did it, because I don't even completely remember. But I think the basic idea is because the iframe is internal to... Like we locally make the iframe and it's just pointing to our another, like some HTML or something completely local. We are able to directly go into that iframe and access its window, and I can put the same drop handler on it. So I think that's what I did. Let's double check. Git apply, drag this puppy on here and run it. There we go. That gives us our change. And yeah, so I changed two files. Let's take a peek at them. One of them was the TinyMCE. So I've used the use file drop hook. Although, did I already have that before? I think I did, I thought. No, I guess not. So what I typically did before this, because that app is one of the container component apps that I've created, I have this little generic container component that kind of wraps a bunch of logic and lets you do a custom hook and some other stuff. And that one has the file drop piece right here. So that typically works, but when you have an iframe in the app, you need to do something a little bit special. And I might generalize this if I get more apps that are acting this way. But for now, I've just built it right into TinyMCE to focus on its little iframe mishap. So for file drop, in this case, I get them both here because I'm going to do some conditional stuff down below, and you can't have hooks be conditional. So the file drop here with an ID says that it just adds any DOM element you attach these two events to, the on drag over and the on drop, that will become like a drop zone for updating the process URL on whatever ID you pass in here. So that's the basics of how I set up that hook. And here, what did I do? One sec. I think I only wanted this to happen once. That was one of the bugs I think that was occurring, where I would open it empty, this thing was running, and then when I went to drag something on, it would run again. So this shouldn't run twice. So that's why I've added this condition here on the effect to that only when the editor is not yet set we want to run this, because this thing's main goal at the end of the day is to set the editor here and then say it's done loading. And then another piece we've added here, once there's an active editor, we try to get the iframe from within that container window, like so. And if we get the iframe, we get its content window. So that's almost like the window object. I think it's either the window object or the document object. Don't quote me on that. But it's enough of a main. I think it's the window object, let's say. So it's within the iframe, that iframe's window object. And then I'm allowed to add event listeners to that. And I just add these same drag drop event listeners that I got from the hook here up there. Yeah, on drag over, I use the on drag over event, and for drop, I use the on drop. So that's my way of kind of going into the iframe and giving it the exact same functionality. And yeah, the conditional here was to fix that other bug where it crashed. And then I've also moved the destroy piece here. Why did I do that? Right, I didn't want when the URL was changing for it to be running this. That was another bug. There were several bugs here. So this should pretty much only run when the URL changes, and then I move the destroy effect out to here. So when the editor, the first time the editor won't exist, and then the other time would be at the end when the function's cleaning up, so this would destroy it. I got another request from Abrar22, add Half-Life. I haven't really seen a good example online of Half-Life. If you happen to know of a WebAssembly one or something, that gets into another piece where I do want to do my own WebAssembly conversion of something at some point. Half-Life, I don't know, because I don't think they have the source code out there, so I mean, don't quote me on that, I have no idea. But if there was a decompiled version or I had the source code of something, I do want to have a fun project where I am the first one to port something to a WebAssembly so that I can run it in my app. But Half-Life, yeah, that's a tough one. I'll keep you posted on that one. I don't have a... I'll add that one as an experimental one. I know the Diablo one, but I'll put, is it possible to run Half-Life in the browser? Question mark. That's another cool idea though, so kudos to that one. The classic Half-Life, Counter-Strike, one of those two. Okay, so let's just see if this fix works. Hey, we're back? Oh good, we're back. Sorry everybody, my OBS crashed on me. That hasn't happened in a few months. Not sure what happened there. I mean, maybe I was just doing a bad combination of stuff. Let's try to... I'm not 100% sure where I lost everybody, so let me go back. I saw that it had froze when I was at this code screen, so I'll just quickly reiterate what I've done here. Is that, yeah, I've got the iframe from within the TinyMCE instance. I grabbed the content window, which is like the window inside the iframe, and then I'm adding these two event listeners to it. And then another tangent I went on right when it froze was that Abrar22 had mentioned about adding Half-Life. If anyone has an idea about a Half-Life running in the browser, please tell me, and I'm interested. I've added it to my notes here that a question, is it possible? Because I don't know on that one. And I'm not sure if it got mentioned in the stream before I got cut off, but I was also saying how in the future I plan to convert something to WebAssembly. But I need the source code, and I'm not sure if that's out there for Half-Life or the legitimacy of it. In the case of Diablo, possibly I could use the shareware version of their like MPQ file or their main data file. That might be okay in the shareware version, and then the player from this Diablo web character is somehow okay. I'm not sure. I know that the Serenity OS guy did something similar with the same kind of ported piece of Diablo software. In my case, it's been ported to mscripton, but in his case, he had the same... I can't remember what it's called, but he had the same type of software. Let's go double check if I didn't break it here. I went to go test this right when I realized last time it froze on me, so... Stream appears to be stable again. Yes, it looks like it is, so... We open TinyMCE. Now when we hover over here, we can see that we are able to drop on the frame, which is nice. And then if we drop, it loads without a red crash anymore. So that was a double win. We can drop on the iframe now. It loads in our app, even though it was from another frame, which is kind of cool. And it didn't crash it. And then, yeah, this is one of the few apps that I've got saving capability that I already built in. So I can actually probably break this shortcut if I were to... What would I have to do? It wouldn't be too hard. Let me just change this one letter. and press save. That should break it. Oh, error occurred while saving. That's cool that the error worked. I don't know why it didn't allow me to save, unfortunately, but it's cool that it worked. Make a note of that too, then. Possibly that was a good thing. It might not. Maybe it shouldn't have been able to. Error in TinyMCE when trying to change the shortcut. Change a shortcut. Look into that for another day. So let's commit this first one here. What was this called? TinyMCE drag drop fixes. Hopefully without the little crashing we had, that I was still able to express what this commit was about. And let's move on. I think the Space Cadet one will be a fun one, so we'll get to that one in the not too distant future. And also some of these other ones are kind of useless too. The package updates, I think I might not even do this. This was me trying to mess around with ESLint 8, which just came out. But I quickly realized that a lot of stuff doesn't quite work with ESLint 8 yet, including Next.js and the testing library plugins. I had to switch this to alpha, and this just, I mean, once you start moving stuff to alpha, who knows what's going to happen. This is a cool, useful one. Report unused, disabled directives. We do want this change, though. Right, I remember the ESLint was able to detect this, I guess it was, or I don't know if it was the TypeScript change, but it no longer required this. So I think we do want some of these updates. Actually, at the same time, I think I went back to an older version of Next.js, too. Yeah, revert back to latest Next.js and ESLint 7. So what I've done is gone back to the official release and stopped doing the Canary Next.js's, and I've just added this rule for now, because I actually don't need, the only reason I need that rule is because Next.js is wrong, and they fixed it in their Canary build, so I was using their Canary builds, but it's just giving me headaches. So I'm gonna go completely just latest versions now. No more betas or alphas for that stuff, and those, whatever those other changes were. Let's double check those because I don't want to lose those. So that first commit. Let's do the update first. Let's start with the update and see if TypeScript now detects that there was that little problem there. So we'll do yarn outdated first to see what's outdated. See what we missed. Looks like a lot's outdated, like as we know, TypeScript and such. So let's just do those. We'll do upgrade -- latest, and then we'll revert the Canary stuff back a little bit. I could probably run Half-Life, I guess, through the DOS emulator. I don't know. Maybe not. I have a 32-bit Windows emulator possibly that could do it, but I think it's pretty bad with graphics. That one's a tougher one. That's a challenging one. Could probably be done at an extremely slow frame rate, like 1 frame per minute or something. Okay, so luckily the -- latest this time reverted my Canary back to stable. That's actually what I wanted this time. Sometimes I don't want that, and it does that, but this time I did want it, so. Looks like it did that in almost all cases, which I actually appreciate. And it's also kept, oh no, it did upgrade ESLint. We're going to have to go back on ESLint. Because like I said, it's a ticking time bomb right now. I mean, we can run it right now and see it probably fail. Let's give it a shot. Yarn ESLint. Let's see. Yeah, boom. Yeah, it's failing because of the testing library. I put that to alpha, then Next.js will stop building. It's endless. Let's go back on that one. We're gonna say yarn add ESLint at that version, and it's a dev dependency. That should put this back to that. Yeah, without the up arrow now. So now that's stuck at version 7 until I'm gonna wait until Next.js gets an update to like 1.1.3 or whatever they go with next. Maybe it'll be like, who knows? Who knows what they'll do next? They got some big updates coming pretty soon. They're gonna switch from, I think, Webpack to SWR or something like that. Or, I mean, I'm not gonna speak for them, but I've heard they've got some good changes coming, so I'm excited about that. Okay, we've done the updates. Let's try ESLint again. I think it'll be a little more calm this time, let's say. And let's take a look at that one bug again. Yeah, I think this was something I really didn't like doing anyways, this extend unknown, but at one point it was like that, or comma with nothing. Like it was like a workaround for the fact that that generic was being kind of stubborn. But possibly that's better now. Yeah, it looks like now ESLint picks that up, so that's cool. I'm fine to change that back. And then this part here is where it's wrong. It's saying here, next document should not be imported outside of pages document.js, but document.tsx, which I use, is also valid. And even in the documentation, it shows as valid. So they're wrong. I'm just going to put it on this file here and not put it in the ESLint rules this time and see where that gets me. Because it's this file with this file name that it dislikes, but this has been added as an exception very early in the Canary builds, and I'm just waiting for a release to come out for that to stop being annoying. So I think this ignore is reasonable in this case. Typically they're not. I typically never ignore the ESLint errors, but the spirit of the error I'm actually following is just incorrect. Let's double check what that other package update commit was, just to make sure, because I'm going to ignore both of them otherwise. Not ignore them, but I'm not going to look at them further. Yeah, that was this piece. And then just lock file changes and stuff. Looks like I did a lot of lock file changes. Okay, that works. So let's commit that as our package updates. Actually, let's try yarn build, because build is going to stress test the TypeScript stuff too. But at the same time, I'm going to do the commit message, which was package upgrades or updates. I don't know the difference really. The difference is in philosophy alone, perhaps. What's it complaining about here? Unknown rule, custom property, no missing var. It's complaining about my markdown? Well, that's incorrect. ESLint's a bit stubborn sometimes. Sometimes I have to close VS Code and completely reopen it. There actually is some way to reset the ESLint side of it. Oh, what happened here? So it still failed? That's not cool. This just happens sometimes, you know? I don't know about this. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to remove everything we had so far. The node modules, the .next folder, the out folder. Get rid of them. And then we're going to close VS Code. We're going extreme here. I want to go blank slate just to prove a point too. That I think this is okay. Access denied. See, that's the first suspicious thing. Okay, let's close VS Code. We're going to open it again. I'm going to switch cameras quick because sometimes it doesn't kick in until I do the old switcheroo. Sometimes it doesn't kick in, period. There we go. There it is. I had the dev environment running too. That could have been a problem. So let's do that command one more time. Just to get rid of the next thing if I can even. There we go. That time it's gone. So we'll redo yarn. I think this time yarn build will work. But something about going to that new version of ESLint and then going back and trying to build, it doesn't like, and my node modules was just not in a good state perhaps, or more likely I'm just impatient. Probably I wasted more time doing it this way, but I knew this way would work, you know? That's the kind of thing with computers sometimes. It's better to do it the way you know works than the theoretically faster way. Sorry, making a mess here with my water. So that was just commit 2? Jeez. Okay, well I guess that counts as 2. This is an easy one. Rename home to index. Very simple. I just decided it was time. I think it's called home when you first make Next.js, and I just left it as that. But I prefer to name the things as their file whenever possible. I used to have a linting rule complaining about that, so I do believe in it. Oh, right, I wasn't done this first one. Dang it. Saving index, getting code actions. Oh, yeah, this just takes time. Okay, the build works, so I was correct. It seems to be 2 kilobytes smaller than it used to be. I don't know why. Something became smaller. Great. Let's call this the package upgrades then. Oh, wait. Now that thing added. So we're going to stage all of these and then unstage that change I just did. So first we'll do these 4 were the package upgrades. The fixing of that type came with either TypeScript update or some ESLint change. I don't know. This needs to be ignored for now. And we're going back to the stable Next.js. So package, I should say downgrades in some cases. Package upgrades / stable releases. There we go. That'll take a moment to do all of its little husky run stuff. It goes in the background. Oh, and then to fail. What's it failing on here? Unknown word in use worker. What is it talking about? So wait, isn't that exactly what I had the change for in the first place? When linting something other than CSS, you install an appropriate syntax. Seems to be now having an issue with that thing that I had to change the first time. What if I do this other syntax that I thought at one point was valid? See, it hates that. delete this. Yeah, according to prettier. Interesting. So it's okay with that, but in the ESLint that I run here, that is failing? Oh, it's failing as a stylint rule. That doesn't make any sense. Let's try to commit this one more time. In general, my styling linting should probably be a little more targeted because these TS files are not necessarily worth stylint scanning. Okay, so let's fix stylint loose scanning here. The issue is coming from lint staged in regards to TS files getting stylint fix, and there being some kind of false positive, I guess, on the TypeScript piece here. What line does it hate? It doesn't even say. Post CSS, CSS, and JS, and use custom syntax option. Yeah, that's a terrible one. Well, where are all my styles are all over the place. That's one of the issues, though. I guess the utils folder could be ignored, but that's not really clear from this rule here. Ugh, this is a silly error that I'm not happy about. Let's just ignore this one then, because I don't know why it's stylint. This seems like wait, post CSS. There shouldn't even be any post CSS in this. So let's just say that maybe this is a new stylint rule. Did stylint get an upgrade? Let's double check that. Stylint. Oh, it got a big upgrade from 13 to 14, and now it's more wrong, it looks like. Let's take a look at this rule then, because this actually hadn't happened to me until right now. This is like a bug. Huh. Am I supposed to download this? No, I have this. Well, I think we should just disable this rule. I don't agree at all with whatever the heck it's talking about. There isn't even any CSS in there. So that rule is a failure as a person. Let's go to our stylint rules, and under the rules section here, let's see if we can get lucky and we can just disable this darn thing. So we have to add this to our package upgrades because stylint has some kind of upgrade that's giving us heck for now. Let's just see if this lets us slide, because that rule is incorrect, sir. Nope, didn't care about that. So did I not actually do anything with that rule? Did I just make that up? Maybe the stylint part doesn't need to be there. Yeah, that's very possible. Okay, so let's get rid of this little stylint / piece and re-alphabetize this LMNOPQRS. Let's see if that's a little more appropriate. Something's got to work. Drum roll? We need a drum roll. Ugh. What do I do in this scenario here? Let's take a peek at this again. When linting something other than CSS, you should install an appropriate syntax. Maybe I just need to install this? Maybe that's what's going on? Maybe this isn't a rule. Maybe this is just some kind of dependency I'm missing now with stylint 14. Let's take a peek at that thing again and see if we can just get that dependency and see if it makes any difference. I'd be happy if it did. Post CSS syntax. Let's skip that one first and just start with this. See if we can get away with the bare minimum. Yarn add this --dev. Do I have other stylint things like that? At stylint? Nope, that's pretty uncommon. Okay. Let's see if it makes any difference. I feel like it won't. And then I just was a waste doing that. Oops, my yarn lock file needs to commit as well. So if it does work, that would be neat. And I'd be happy with that. Didn't though, so I'm not happy. Huh. Okay, so I can't think of a good way around this right now. We need to revert some of the stylint stuff. I can't use that stylint package. That's the new decision. So first thing, let's uninstall that thing I just installed because I don't want that. We'll say remove. And then let's decide which one is the broken thing here. What's the big update? Stylint config prettier going from 8 to 9. That's kind of everything's jumped an entire version here, unfortunately. Let's see if just going back to whatever the latest stylint 13 version was gets us out of the trouble. because I don't want to mess around with this forever. So this was 3 days ago. Oh, there's a whole migration guide. I guess I could follow this. The syntax option and automate. What is this? There are 5 changes that may affect you. The syntax option, that seemed relevant. Yep. Some rules were deprecated. The config override option was removed. Okay. Oh, so do I need to install this? And extend that. Standard SCSS. Silent no longer includes the syntaxes that parse. Oh, okay. Well, let's just try this, I guess. We'll learn this one together. So we're going to add this like it says, and then we got to put it in the extend rules, sorry. Where does it go alphabetically? Standard, so here, I guess. Standard SCSS. I'm okay with that so far. Those are reasonable changes. I wonder if I could just run Stylent to test this. Let's just go back to the instructions and see if there's anything else. Sugar RS. Wait, what's this for? The shared config extends Silent to be compatible with SCSS. Don't need it. It configures the built-in rules. Okay. If a shared config isn't available, your preferred language, then you can install the appropriate post syntax. Oh, interesting. Custom syntax. How do I do styled components then? Oh man, they really messed this up. I see it. Okay. I mean, maybe that's what we're using, I guess. Let's see how far that gets us then. Let's just see what the piece I added, if that helps at all. Because it looks like they've made it more complex for me. I mean, if I can upgrade to 14 and it works, great. It didn't though, but darn you guys. Is the error different now? Now it just says unknown word. Oh, so what's the next little fight you're supposed to do to make this work? Yeah, they just messed up Stylent. So for now, I'm not going to worry about this. Let's make a note about it. Here in our next episode, we're going to upgrade to Stylent 14 if we can. And now let's take a quick step backwards and remove all this stuff we don't need and go back to whatever the other version of Stylent is, which we'll double check. So this change, no. Completely undo that. The package change. Yeah, I mean, that didn't need to occur even. Same with the yarn lock. So what do we got right now? We got the upgrades. Let's just try to just step back Stylent. So typically what I'll do is I'll go to Stylent's NPM page to see what the last version was here in versions. So they had 13.13.1 before things blew up, and that's 6 months ago. So yeah, this is it's a work in progress for them. I think they'll probably come out with some fixes pretty quick. Oops. Let's say add style lint at that version dash dev. And hopefully this alone will just be enough and I can just walk away from the fire here. Oh wait, what happened? Did it change or not? Okay, it changed there. Yes, I want that change. Yes. All right. Come on. No more Stylent 14 because it's confusing. Yep, there we go. That fixed it. So that's the fun of living on the bleeding edge of versions. You get to see a little taste of it there. But we were able to recover. Do this one again, renamed home to index. Simple one there. Not going to waste anyone's time discussing that one further. Those were some complicated package upgrades in the end. What's next on the docket? Don't return unused Boolean. That's good advice. Okay. Right, yeah. We'll do this as a patch because it's simple enough. I think I noticed this last episode that when I do the, what command is this I was doing? The extract files. I would return whether or not there was any failures to an array, but then I never did anything with it. What the heck? Oh, that's the wrong patch file. Git apply the correct one. Oh, and the correct one works. What a surprise. So all I really did is I got rid of all the returns here that I wasn't using. So before I said promise Boolean, but I didn't care if it was false or true here. I just awaited it, and then I was like, okay, goodbye array. So I'll just return void, and then instead of return here, I'll just do awaits. And it already had, well, it didn't have an else condition, but now I make sure nothing else will execute there. And I was able to get rid of all this created Boolean stuff. So it was a little bit cleaner, but another simple refactor. Hardly worth mention, but it needs to be done. Simpler extract files. This, I think, was a nice one. Right. So this is an interesting one. I have to mention as to why I've had to adjust an ESLint rule again. But sometimes you have to adjust these ESLint rules, you know? It doesn't mean you apply ignores because you're not sure about them, but you need to be sure what it is you want to achieve with the rules. So in my case here, what I've done is I've gone from using this loop that we were just looking at last commit. And the issue with this is that because it was doing them all asynchronously, some of them were allowed to finish before others, and it was causing some race conditions with some folder creation here. So what I've had to do is I've had to kind of switch to a traditional for loop, but I've done the for of syntax. So this piece is all still the same. And then here, when I was doing promise all object entries, I've switched to just looping through the unzipped entries and doing the await here as just one little piece. And I've added, there's two rules that it considered that I broke. One of them is this restricted syntax. It doesn't like the for of syntax because it was saying it was adding a little bit of overhead, and it was just not an ideal one, and try to do it a different way. But it also said in some cases you do want to do it this way, or you should ignore the rule. And it's not always that it's the wrong case. So I feel like this is a good scenario for it. I want the things to happen one after another. I want to use the async commands. I don't want to get into the promise chain callback scenarios. So, which I'd already played with that in this area anyways. So this is just a lot simpler. That was the one rule, the for of, using the iterators. It didn't like that completely. And then the other one here was the no await in loop. It basically just said this can be like an anti-pattern, typically a mistake, but sometimes it's not. And in this case, I don't think it is. I understand the reason why I had to do it this way. Could it be written another way, a more synchronous way? Possibly, but I'm kind of enjoying working with the async await stuff, and to me it feels pretty simple. Almost every line is very like filled with content. There's not a lot of like setting up variables or filler or passing things around. Everything, most of the stuff's doing stuff, you know, or it has a reason for existing, I feel, which is kind of my measurement. And as far as why the no restricted syntax, I still wanted errors on all the other type of rules that are on by default with the Airbnb rule that was triggering, which was these three, but not the for of one. So I've limited the rule a little bit, but I haven't completely disabled it. With that being said, I think we can commit that one. So that's just a little bit simpler way to extract files. I have embedded ability to extract files, zip files. So you can right-click a zip file and just like extract it directly on the folder. And this stops the errors from happening now that it's looping more consistently. Sometimes you want more of an asynchronous behavior. Stick at 81 until the stream. What's this? Oh, this was another messing around with Next.js. Nice, that's another useless commit. Ignore it. Here's some more async FS stuff. I did a little bit more. Looks like I did quite a bit. So let's patch this one and just take a what do they call it? A 50,000 foot view of the commit and see if it makes sense. Do the old git apply and paste it in there. What is it complaining about? The package file. Oh, that's fair. So we've obviously not kept with the same repos. So it's complaining that our yarn and package files are different. That's to be expected. I'm going to try to just cut those right out of the diff if I can. Hopefully they're right at the bottom, and that's it. Yeah, they are. Nice. So I'm just going to cut those out and hope for the best. Let's see if that fixed it. Nice. Now it patched. These patches aren't that hard to edit, actually. You basically just cut right where you'd expect to cut them, and then luckily it works. So this async fs endeavor was me taking the fs callback commands and converting them to async. And I've slowly been going through all my code base and adjusting it. Typically with these apps, what I've done is I've removed them from being in a hook and made it where all the hook does is trigger the loading of a load command, kind of, based on whether or not the URL has changed. So in this effect here, whenever the URL is changing, the load file is going to occur. And in load file, I've also decided to check Monaco and editor. Just to get it to not complain, because TypeScript is like, hey, I don't know if editor exists, but the only time I run load file, I've already checked editor. But I understand you could run load file somehow without doing that. I mean, you could if you wrote it that way, but it's not written that way. Otherwise, I think this code is almost identical. The unlock part's the same and lock here at the end, but we switched to the async methods. So to me, it seems simpler. If you see here before, it was starting to get into the callback hell where it starts that slope of bracketing. And we are able to get rid of that with the async effects and just kind of keep it pretty clean, where it's like you unlock that define function, you dispose of the old model if there is one, you set a new one, you create it in here, the await happens here. So the first thing that's getting executed actually would probably be this. I mean, after it goes into the condition. Well, within this line, the first thing that occurs is this. Gets the file, converts to a string, detects the language, parses the URL, and then creates the model. It might do those bottom to top. I'm not sure which attribute it does first. That's an interesting question, but yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. Anyways, you can see how this all is kind of on one line now. So it's like, do this, do this, do this, do this. Versus the old way, where it was like, do this, then start this command, and then when it's done, this piece is going to be what will happen. And then if there's no error, then go into this, and yeah, it was a little deeper into it. Now you don't have to check for errors anymore too. So if there's some issue here with the await, it's going to throw an error and you'll know about it. You don't have to check for it. Otherwise, yeah, nothing changed. This 3000, I switched to be instead of 3 seconds, I made it 2.5. And I've also brought in the constant milliseconds in seconds so I can be a little clearer. 2.5 times milliseconds in second. Kind of clarifies that it's 2.5 seconds, I feel like. That's all for that one. What's this one here? Same kind of thing. Yeah, this is just me going from the FS way of doing things to the async read one. This is for the Photos app. And I took it out of the hook and I've converted it to a load photo function. Otherwise, I don't think it changed at all. No, it didn't. There was no change at all in this one. It was very surface level, which is the way I like it. The hook became much more simple. This is the hook now here. And then sorry, I can't see too much. This is the hook right here. And then this is the function, the load photo function for the photo app. And then I did the same for Ruffle. I think I've done all the apps now for their FS access. Load flash one was really easy. That became, yeah. Didn't change really at all. And this one was the last one, load player for video. And I have another commit after this where I fixed the video a little bit because it had a few flaws. Not in this rearrangement, but just in general, it already had some issues. So this is just for the video app. So that's the 4 apps that I refactored the part on. We'll just say async fs conversion part 6 because that's what it was. I don't know what it's referring to with those ESLint fixes. I don't see any ESLint fixes here. Yeah, like we've looked through all the files and almost nothing, if not nothing's changed, other than just extracting out a few things into functions so that they can run a different way. Let's commit it. I'm happy with it anyways. Those were just some pure refactors. That gets us to here. Async file loading. This one I'm kind of proud of. I forgot I did this one too. This is a big one. So basically, I'll show you a big flaw here with my file loading concept. I don't think we have the dev environment running, so let's run the dev environment too. Yarn dev. And I'm just going to grab, I need to find a few videos. I have some sample videos we can use. Although I don't think they slow things down too much. I need big videos. We'll see how far these get us. So the app should be loading any second now. It's taking its time. It says compiling, loading. Here we go. So we'll put in one video there. You see it gets the rabbit picture. I want to put in a few more. Let's put in a big picture. I'll put my wallpaper in here. And I also have a streaming video, I think. Yeah, that's a big one there. Oh, even copying it took a second. Yeah, there we go. So as you can see on the desktop, I have the ability for icons to automatically be created based on the files, which is I find kind of neat. But it can be slow. I'll show you right now. So let's press refresh. That was unfortunate because of the positioning of the icons. What if we put this icon first and this one next? Now watch when I refresh. It's actually not doing as bad as it was before. Oh, you see the icons didn't load there. That's one issue. But there was another issue I was having where it was even so slow that the icons would like delay. I don't know why I'm having trouble creating that now, that effect. Well, I'm happy that the icon list is loading quick, but it might have been when I had the network being slower. Anyways, the basics of what I want to do is I want the icons to load without the file entries and the icons to load without these dynamic icons first. So everything, it just put the list on the screen as fast as you can to show the user the list. And then after that, then you can execute the loading of these or trying to get these dynamic icons. So that's the basic idea of what I want to do. And what I'm going to do, because if I do it that way, what I'm going to do, the way it is now, all the icons kind of just appear on the screen at the same time because I only run the set files command on the state once after I've kind of got all the files. What I'm going to start doing is one after another. As soon as I get the file info, I'm going to set it. I'm going to, just set it, and do a sorting at the same time, sorting the files. And the idea there is that, let's say if I open the start menu and there's 10 things in the list, they can start going da 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 and loading instead of seeing nothing and then all of a sudden seeing them. But for the desktop, I've actually found that that's a bit of a jarring experience. So I've decided that for the icon version of the file entry view, file manager, it'll just pop in. It'll not show and then it'll appear. And then load those dynamic icons. But the list view, which the start menu is part of, will have that bump. Because I thought that was the best of both worlds anyways. So let's get a patch for that one because I don't remember what I did. I think I did a good chunk of stuff to get that one to work. Let's just go back to the commits here for a second. Async file loading. Yeah, and then I go right to space cadet, video tweaks. This doesn't matter. Load dynamic icons after file manager is loaded. Right. I think that piece, I did a few of these pieces after that are a part of this, but let's do them one at a time because I think they make a good transition. They make sense to do one at a time is what I'm saying. Well, it's not what I'm saying, but it's what I wanted to say. And isn't that important enough? So let's start with the patch. Always nice to start there. So for functions, I only changed one little piece, is that sort order, I've allowed there to be a default. This might not even be necessary, but I think it's a good little safety check. Yeah, I think it's useful anyways, because I believe there's a scenario where it's not a certainty. And what I've done here, let's take a peek, because I've changed a few things. So the get files command, I've got rid of that. That was only just getting statistics for each file, like the file size, the modified date, and it was also getting some shortcut information if the file happened to be a shortcut. I've moved that into here because all it was really doing was just this piece here, creating that. And what I've done, instead of having the updated files doing the get files as a loop, I've just put it into a reduce here so that every time it gets a single file, a single stat, instead of this here where it was getting them all and just kind of loading them, now I allow a 1 by 1 with this reduce, where every time it gets a file, it takes the order that it got in, the sort order, and it adds it to the list. So we have the processed files that are the reduce accumulator, and we have these new file entries we create every time that has the name of the file plus the stats that we grabbed for it. And yeah, and the main key part that matters is before I would get all the files and then set them, and now this loop I set every time. So this allows that boom, boom, boom as the files get loaded, which feels a little faster in some scenarios. And this I think changes. I might end up reapplying. Before I explain this any further, you know what we should do? We should just apply those other commits because I feel like these two were in the same direction. Let's just double check. Yeah, that one's definitely well, load dynamic icons after file manager is loaded. That might be a whole other thing. Let me go back to what the code we had done. This is purely for the async loading. This isn't about the icons yet. Because I think what happened is I thought it was the async loading, and then it turned out that the icons were the real slowdown. So I needed both those things to, but the async loading actually was nicer for the start menu, so that was a win anyways. So let's finish this piece. And on that note, yeah, let's just finish this piece and see where this gets us. So after I've set the files, I set them again at the end here, all the sorted files. Wait, does that make sense, actually? Maybe it doesn't. No, that doesn't make sense then. This probably doesn't even need to exist. Let's make a note of that. I'm going to let it slide because I need to patch it to see the next patch. We'll jump right to the patches that involve this. But I want to see because I'm questioning now if I need this last set. Because it's like set. It should have set the last one. The sort order shouldn't be related to having to set a last time. So let's make a note of that. Do I need to do a last set files? We'll see in a second here. And then the last piece here, what did I do? This logic had to change here. This was for when sorting changes, so rearranging icons and stuff. The one case that I removed basically was just this first case. That if there was no sort order, it would like set an initial sort order. That's been moved into when the files are all set. So after the files are all made, then the sort order gets updated. Whereas before I was letting an effect get triggered and then resetting and then setting something that was unset. So now that scenario probably doesn't happen because as soon as there's no files and it runs update files, it's going to have that initial sort order at the end of its run. So that's all that changed here, actually. So let's commit that, or let's not. Wait a second. Let's go see now if this other async. So this was the async file loading commit here. But then after that, the other ones that I think were associated. So there was one here, fixed sort issues. Yeah, that was one part that was wrong, I think. Yeah, this isn't a simple enough one. So first off, it being called initial sort order was kind of confusing because it can happen more than once. It can happen not just on the initial go. So I just call it custom sort order whenever it's passed in. And we'd also removed this piece in my change. And I wanted to bring this back where there was this or the files that already exist. Otherwise, when I was refreshing, I was losing my sort order. If something had changed and then I refreshed the page, it just didn't have the opportunity to grab here when it was doing the first sort. If that makes any sense. So I think that let's just apply this patch at least. Because this is literally fixing something from the thing we just committed. Or that we just applied, sorry. Not committed. We haven't committed yet. So we'll also apply that little tweak there to have it that way. I think that makes more sense. And we could see in that patch too that this was still here. So let's try to get rid of that. Because that was my theory on that we don't need that last one. Save that. Now let's go back to those patches and make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck with adding these little fixes in here. That one was useful. No context menu outside. That's not useful. That's not related. Don't show during loading for icons. Or don't show what? The file manager. That's all. That's getting back to this dynamic icons thing. Actually, no. Is this? This actually isn't. This is relevant to that thing I was saying, how the icons, I don't want it to be boom, 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 boom. Let's see the boom, boom, boom first. But then, yeah, that one can be a follow-up patch. We don't need to add that to this. So these are the dynamic parts. That'll be the next one. Then the follow-up patch where we hide them. Yeah, let's just do that. So then we're good with this part then. What was this called? This was the async file loading. Oh, wait, I want to see the effect. We want to see it in action. Ta-da! What happened here? Oh, so there's the slowdown, by the way. Right. So before we had that boom, boom, boom effect, it was less noticeable, but there would be this pause and then things would start to show. Now that we have the boom, 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 it's more noticeable that freeze and on what files it happens. So now you see when I press refresh, it does start to populate the files, but it gets stuck because it has to load the icon for every one. So we got part of the problem fixed in that it doesn't just grab all the files, wait, then dump them on. It'll dump them on one at a time, but now it makes it more clear which are the ones that are slowing things down. So before, like, right, actually it feels slower. I don't know why exactly that is. I think it's because of the nature of the way that I've reorganized it, that it now waits a little longer. But that's where we're going to get rid of that part. That the thing that's taking all the time is this dynamic icon piece. So let's just finish this aspect of the async file loading. Also, let's take a look at the start menu one, because that one actually looks nice. So there, you see that looks more smooth the way it comes in. Before there was definitely a few milliseconds where it's like, hey, there's nothing here. And now I feel like almost right away you start to see a few things because it starts to do the adding. Okay, async file loading. Put part 7 in brackets here for what little it matters. Let's commit our async file loading. And now let's move that dynamic file icon part out of the loading process and make it separate. We're going to skip Space Cadet for a minute, and we're going to skip the video player tweaks, and we're just going to finish off that piece. This part we already did, so it's just these two pieces here, actually. And let's do the don't show one too. Let's say all three of these. So this is all about the dynamic icons that we want to have. And when I keep saying dynamic icons, I mean if you have a video, it's going to show you a picture of the video frame. If you have a picture, it's going to actually show the picture as the icon. So let's just see if we can get away with all three of these patches at the same time, and then we can call it all the same kind of idea. So git apply, one by one we'll do them. Do the first one. First one we already have a problem on, so what's it complaining about with functions? Patch does not apply to functions. What did you change in functions here? This looks applicable. Let's take a peek at the commit back here then, I guess, because darn it if it did not work. The first one was this, and the functions file, that is absolutely applicable. So what's it talking about here? And I think none of this changed from the way I had it. Let's go back to that patch here. Patch failed. Okay, it was on line 166 at least. That's helpful. That bracket there? How is that any different from what I already had? I don't like that error at all. 166. Does it talk about that here? And what is it saying? They does not apply. I wonder if it's a line thing. I guess we could apply this manually, but I'm just trying to figure out why it would say it doesn't apply, because I actually thought the files were quite similar. So it removed this piece here, which existed right there. Okay. And it puts set there in its place. Ah, yes, I remember. It moved these into here. It's hard to say why the patch doesn't work, though, actually. Because if it didn't, for some obvious reason, I'd change that back. But have we even changed anything have we even changed this file in this entire episode? I don't think we have. That's why I question what it's saying. Yeah, I don't think we changed this file even. I don't know if anyone remembers me changing this file. I sure don't. Okay, the patch doesn't work. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way. Ugh. There's a lot of file changes, though, weren't there? I've started to rely on this patch system. Hey, you know what we'll do? We'll do it the old school patch way, where we'll take the files and we'll just do it ourselves. We'll do it live. I'm going to take that's the two files right there. Let's just compare them and see what's going on here. Because I'll just take one over the other if that's the case. At least this way we can look at the diff and see what I did. So on the get info by file extension, on this file info type, I've added something called get icon. Oh, this is inverted here. This looks like the opposite of what I did. Let's try to get a non-inverted compare. There we go. So I added the get icon function. So every file entry that can possibly have this get icon function, which allows it to actually go into its file and get a photo or get a frame and use it as the icon. And then all I did here, before what I had is I would run the get, well, actually, this is a bad example. Ignore that line for a second. Here's the pattern I tried to replicate. Is before I would run the get command, then I would read the file and again run the get command. So like, give me the default icon, now try to get the dynamic one. Instead, now what I do is I set the default one here and then I pass that get icon function. So use the default icon and then when you're ready, run this function that will give you a dynamic icon. So I give it that time, that little buffer zone. And in this case here, it was a little different because this is to get an icon for a shortcut. So before I was running the get icon request again and then using this, now what I do is I just use I use both. I use the icon and I use the get icon. I pass that along. This is the same, same idea. It was like it was like default, then try this. Now it's a both. Same. Oh, I don't like that. That's not the way that I like to do that. We'll fix that in a second here. Because whenever it tries to do the conditional on a second line, I like to try to I just wrap it in brackets. I feel like that makes me less uncomfortable. There we go. Okay, so that change is pretty solid, I feel. Oh, what's it talking about there? Oh yeah, I didn't this is just some text I pasted. I don't know why the patch wouldn't apply. I don't know why it's complaining about draw image either. But these changes are exactly appropriate. So I'm going to copy this and I'm just going to paste that in that file. This is the original. Let me close all this junk in my way here, open the show notes again. Now if we see we got those changes we wanted, that's nice. And now we need to make a few more adjustments. Unfortunately, that patch wasn't cooperating, so let's not even try to use it, and let's just... This file was the main changes. These ones here we can actually copy paste too, probably. The main idea here is that we now, on each file entry, we need to pass the loading status. So a new piece that I've decided to add is called the isLoadingFileManager Boolean, which is explanatory enough, I hope. We're just going to add that here right above the hide shortcut. And it's based on isLoading, which already existed. So there's nothing else to do there. Now in the file info type declaration, we're going to add the get icon as a possible function that can be on that type. That was another piece. And then the final piece here is the file entry. And I'm going to see if I can do a nice little lazy copy paste and see what that gets us. The file entry page is right here, I think. Let's see how that does. Take a look at the diff and see if it looks as expected. That one does. Yeah, we just added the loading. Ah, this is the main file entry. So right, so in file entries, oh, I didn't switch, darn it. So I've applied that file entry code as well. I'm just double checking the file now. isLoadingFileManager Boolean. Here we grab it. Now we're using get icon. And now the thing I've added, the magic here, is another effect that says if we're not loading the file manager, so the file manager is done, and you have a get icon command, and the icon isn't already dynamic, so it doesn't start with the blob yet, then go get the icon. And I don't think there's a worry of this looping too much. To be honest, I think it's only kind of a one-time trigger where this will switch once, this will be applied once. I guess that the icon kept changing, but there's no reason for that to occur. So that's the basics of that effect and how it's going to do its thing. Okay, there we go. Now that we've applied that, let's see if we can have a bit more luck with those other two patches and see what they add to the table. Let's take a peek at it first and make sure. Oh, this is kind of a big patch. Let's not, before we just apply the patch and then we have a bunch of unmanageable changes, let's just see what I was going to apply here. So we just did this one. That allows the load dynamic icons after. Let's just test that, actually. Let's see how that looks. There we go. So that part's nice already. So you see now they load quite a bit quicker. And then after you see that these icons appear. So now it's like, boom. And then once it's loaded, then those icons have permission to grab. And in the start menu, you see here, that's kind of smoother. But you see on the page here how it's a little bit jarring. I'm not sure I completely like that. Maybe in the future I'll animate it. But I think what I wanted to do in this case was do this don't show and have it hide. So I add a little piece to the file entry, the styled file entry called visible that also passes that is loading state. And if the file manager is loading, it just doesn't show, basically. That's what's happening here. So for the icon view, I've said when visible is true, then it's flex. Otherwise, don't show, because it was flex already before. And then I've just said that the visible Boolean is something that can be on the styled file entry. So we'll apply this patch too. This is the E55 one. Git apply. I'll drag this E55. That one didn't give us any trouble. So we've applied that visible change. And I just wanted to see, was this last part the more dynamic icons? I think I just missed one here. One or two. This is in file entries as well, if it's the info without an extension. So for folder icons, when it reads the desktop INI file to try to get a custom icon folder, that also now is doing the same thing. Whereas before it was doing set and then try to get another one and set again. Now it's set and then here's the icon getter function. And then this callback was no longer needed, I believe. Is that the case? This is a different function. Let's double check which function this is. This is the get info with extension. This is for the shortcut scenario. When it's a shortcut, instead of triggering the update first, now I just have a few scenarios. So if it's a folder, we make that get icon command and we just pass that to the callback. And the get icon command is basically what was just already running ahead of time here before. And then this callback is only run in the else scenario where it's not a folder, it's not one of these dynamic extensions. Then we just pass the thing without the get icon function. So let's apply that one too. That actually seems like a good one. I think I see the issue with my patch too. I think I tried to apply the second patch first, I now see. So that was just a mistake on my part. That's probably why I was having so much trouble with it. Okay, so I've applied that patch as well. So that we've got all the dynamic icons. We'll just test it out again here to see if it's working as expected. Yeah, I think so. There's the dynamic icons. They loaded pretty darn quick. You see now how it just loads right away there in the visuals. There's not that with the desktop version because of that visible setting we had. Did we decide if I removed this or not? Looks like I did. Yeah, I did remove that. So that answered that. I didn't need it clearly because it works without it. It's the right number of desktop icons, I think. Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. We're going to commit that then, and we're going to call that the dynamic icons after load. So load dynamic icons after, wait, that's not the best way to say it. Let's say dynamic, what's the best way to say it? Delay loading dynamic icons until after load. That sounds good. Excuse me. There we go. Delay loading dynamic icons until after load. Next one was a sort fix because I think I did the sorting a little wonked. Or did I already apply that sort fix? I think I did. Let's test sorting as well then if that's the case. Oh, I got an issue from my yarn here, some kind of git failure. What is this one here? Unknown rule, custom property, no missing. What is this? Custom property, no missing var function. Let's go into the styled file entry and try to figure out what happened here. Complaining about this? Could this be another stylent confusion? Custom property, no missing var function. No, just no. Seems like that's another issue with styled components. Let's see in the packages. What else? What else could it have been here? What other? What's causing that? Let's just disable this rule because that rule doesn't make any sense to me. Let's look it up. Let's look it up quick and just make sure. But I think it's probably related to that stylent 14 stuff going on. Custom property pattern, was that what it was called? Custom property. Yeah, these aren't custom properties. So that's another fail on stylent's part, but maybe if I switch to 14, things will iron themselves out. That's on my notes here to switch to 14. So until then, we're going to have to add yet another rule exception, unfortunately, until we can get it working properly. Let's see if that at least allows that to commit. Hopefully it does. It doesn't run into some other thing. And it did run into some other thing. Let's jump back to it here. What is it now? Custom property, no missing var function. Huh. Maybe the words custom property are not part of the rule. Let's search for this exact terminology again to make sure that we're doing the ignore rule correctly. Custom property pattern, maybe that's what this is being considered. Because oddly enough, I'm not finding that exact reference. This person added a rule, I guess. Okay, how do you disable the rule? Seems like it happened a while ago too, so I don't think this is a disallow missing var function for custom properties. I'm not using custom properties. Does that go back to this other thing, custom property pattern? Let's see if we can just disable custom property pattern. I don't use any custom properties, so I'd be happy to disable the rule completely if it shuts it up. Let's see, we're having a lot of rules issues from updates. Styled lint, ESLint, custom property pattern. Is this one gonna let it through? No. Why is it being so much trouble? I might just have to disable styled lint until I upgrade to 14. Let's just do that, honestly. That's how tired I am with it. Until we can get 14 working, clearly some package has foobarred 13. So what we'll do is we'll go into the package JSON and we'll just remove it from being something that gets checked before I can commit things in. Until further notice, this is gone. And we'll make a note about it. Add style lint back to lint staged check when it's earned that right by being not messed up. So my assumption is that now it'll work because I've removed the rule basically. And indeed it did. Nice, nice. Okay. What do we have left here? We did these. We're going to get to these in a second. We did the don't load on when we don't want it to load. Did we fix the sort issues? I'm almost certain we did, but I keep getting paranoid about whether or not we did. Yes, we did. If that exists, yes. So this is what I wanted to test. I wanted to test sorting. Let's try here. I'm going to move that up there, up here, refresh. Okay, I think sorting's fixed. Happy to say. Although, I guess it wasn't broken if we applied the patch before we saw it broken. Let's get all the small ones out of the way, because we've almost got all the small ones. Another one here, no context menu outside view. So one issue here is if I switch to this mobile view, watch when I open a context menu here. You see for a second how the bar went down. The taskbar disappeared, first of all. And also there was like a little scroll bar weirdness. Obviously, that's not ideal. Luckily, the fix is as simple as adding one more piece to our metadata. With initial scale, we also need a minimum scale 1. And I think that might have been enough. Let's check it out. So we added that one little piece. We go back here and refresh. And now when I open the window, there we go. No more weirdness there, which is much better. I think that can be committed, and I don't think that's an issue. I think Lighthouse at one point was complaining about something with those values, but I think minimum scale 1 was okay. I think it was the maximum scale it didn't like. No context menu outside view in mobile. Yes. That's basically what the bug was anyways. There we go. Got that. Got those. So we did all of these too. We're not going to do the agent today. We're also still haven't done the address bar. If anyone remembers, I had said I was half done the address bar part of the file manager, file explorer. Still not completely done though. So I unfortunately am not ready for that one. Maybe in 1 or 2 episodes from now when I have more time to address that one. Or maybe I'll have less time then. I don't know. I keeping busy, that's for sure. Okay, let's do another git apply here on the video player tweaks and just quickly see what was required to fix the video. So some of the issues that were happening with video, YouTube stopped working completely because of some cookie issue it was complaining about. And the videos weren't loading the second time through. If I opened a video and then tried to drag another one on, it wasn't loading properly. So a few of the fixes I did, I got rid of YouTube loading separately. So now whenever you open the video player, it just loads the YouTube library too. It's not huge and it's just easier that way. I've also moved some of the options into the main config, such as the inactivity timer of 1 second. And I put the YouTube settings that are just always in here. Because it doesn't hurt to always have them in there actually. And just when they're applicable, they'll matter. So they can all just be put together instead of, before I had those optionally showing like the YouTube things, but it doesn't hurt to have the options. I've also made this MIME type, fake MIME type, into a constant. The style video player, I've added that when it's YouTube, these controls don't show. Same with when the user is inactive in full screen, and when it's YouTube, no controls. Instead, the YouTube controls will show. Under the types here, I've added a few custom types. Source object with URL, which is the text source object, and wait, why have I done this? I think the idea here was that all the video URLs get converted to blob URLs. So I needed a way when I load a different one to keep track of what was loaded, to unload it. And the way to know what was loaded is by also adding the URL to this source object that they make up, which typically just has source, type, just source and type really. But you can add other stuff to it, so that's what I've done. And I've also just made this video player type a bit more generic. Oh, I could use it right here, I realize now. Let's use it here as well. There we go. It's a little nicer. And now we get to the meat of it, is the hook. So I've created this function called cleanup source that allows us to clean up the video if we try to play another video, or if we exit the app. Whoa, what happened here? I think it's wrong here. Oh, maybe that's what I just changed here. It became some wonky circular reference. Is this okay? No. Okay, well good, because it wouldn't have made sense if that worked and the other one didn't. So this part's still okay, but I don't know why it's now complaining. Oh, did I not? What happened with the metadata thing? Huh. It acted like I hadn't saved that, but it was saved. Okay. Yeah, because we already committed the metadata thing. That was this. I don't like this error that it's giving me because I just feel like it's wrong. I've got video.js defined right here. The expression is not callable. Type video.js player and type of import has no call signature. Well, I disagree. Let's just try an experiment here where we close VS Code once again. Switch over to another one here. I'll reopen it. And we'll jump back into it and see how it recovers here. Well, it is saying it doesn't know. Well, it's giving me the same error now. It's interesting because I don't think I was having that issue before. Let's put this back for a second and see. Could it possibly be that? I don't think it could. Maybe it is. It actually goes away when I put that back. Okay, let's just not change the thing. I don't know why that matters, but it's probably a good reason that I just don't know. Let's take a look at this. So before, this command was called load player. It would check if the player existed, and then it would load the source. If the player didn't exist, it would set the player. I think I've separated these out. Or actually, no, I've combined them. The opposite of separating them. Now it's just called load video. And if there's no player, then it does everything. It does all the setting. And if there is a player, it just has one simple command. Checks for that there's a URL. So now we know there's a player. We know there's a URL. It just sets the source. And I now have made the source called a get source function. I can kind of get the latest one. So get source will run cleanup source first. And it'll try to clean up that buffer URL based on looking at the sources from the get media function. Here's where it adds that URL based on the source URL. Or this is where it checks it, sorry. This is where it gets it out. So it says, does the source URL not equal the one that you now want to load? Or are we closing? In either of those cases, okay, clean up the buffer URL. Right. Yeah, it needs to start with a blob, and either it's not the same or it is the same and we're about to close. And in the close down here, I just run cleanup when I was before dispose, sorry. Before I just did dispose, but now I make sure if it closes or if another video loads, the source is going to get cleaned up. And not much else changed, actually. Yeah, other than that, it was just a rearranging of the variables and the functions. Yeah, it's better than before where it was like load video or load player. Now I just call one thing called load video, and I let it decide if the player needs to be set. And I use that same logic, the await get source. And same thing here, await get source. I guess this could be, well, it's only in these two scenarios, so I don't want to run it for no reason. Okay, so that fixes the video player anyways. Because it was giving us some trouble. Video player, we'll call it fixes. They're more than tweaks. What are the other changes here? Oh, I also upgraded the libraries. They were just minor upgrades. I didn't need to, but it was when I was trying to get some stuff working, and I was like, are the libraries broken? I think we're ready for the last one of the episode at 1 hour and 23 minutes in. And it's possibly the one everyone's been waiting for because it was part of my screenshot for this episode, is the Space Cadet video game. And we're obviously just going to patch that one in because I'm lazy. And I've got a bunch of parts of it already set up. Git, apply. But we're going to go through the process of it. Oh. I think I did not download the patch correctly. It failed for some reason. Oh, right. It's probably bigger than I gave credit for because it has the data. Yeah, here we go. It's actually kind of big. I have to wait for this to finish loading. I can press save now, but I have to wait. There we go. This time it saved. Last time I was a little impatient, so I had the wrong patch on my desktop. Nice. This one applied. So as far as what Space Cadet is and how I reverse engineered it, I showed you at the start of the episode here. It was this GitHub package. But if you actually go to the GitHub repo, it's really not super explanatory of anything. It's also not easy to get to the repo either, for some darn reason. I mean, rest assured, there's no install instructions in there or anything. I basically went view source and just started reverse engineering some of this script they had in here to the point where all I needed was this little box. And I'll show you the gist of what ended up needing to happen. Not that much. So I used my typical container component idea, which I'm always fond of. So this container component has the usual setup where I have, here's the hook you have, here's the styled container for it, and then here's what's inside the container. In this case, I give it a canvas to start with, and it has to have the ID of canvas. Just the way they've hard-coded the code, it got difficult to try to fix that piece. There was a place to change it, and that's not enough. There's some other thing that I couldn't figure out. And also, when you right click, we don't want the menu to show because the right click is considered the right paddle in this pinball game. And we'll go to, so we'll look at the styled component. Very simply, all it does is say that the canvas is 100% height and width. That's within it. That's within the styled container. We'll skip the hook for a second. We'll go to the directory that we always add. So we got our Space Cadet directory entry coming from this component with a black background. I've used the size that is already set. It can be adjusted though. I'm able to stretch it, but this is the size it always wants to go to. So I just have a default size that is the ideal one. As far as the icon, I actually got it from the real demo version of the executable. So it is the icon from Space Cadet, the demo, as far as I could see. I've set it to be one of these singleton ideas where if you try to open another one of it, it'll just focus back on itself, which is the way I want it. Most of this other stuff is just the files. The data file is, the JS file is their custom JS to work with their WASM WebAssembly file. This is my shortcut that just says run the Space Cadet file. And then I've got the pinball icon. That's the 48 by 48 one, and there's the 16 by 16. Now let's look at that hook, which is brand new. And there's not much to it. This is it. So I do a declare of because window.module is created when that script is ran. And there is an opportunity to set a canvas on it. Tell it where the canvas is. There's some other stuff you could set, but none of it's really relevant. So the way I've decided to do this is with two effects. It's kind of weird because you'd think it might not be necessary, but it seemed to be necessary to do it this way just to be certain that it was going to properly hook into the canvas. So the first effect loads and tries to get the canvas, that internal canvas that's inside the container. It finds that it's an HTML canvas element. Then is when we set window module to point to the canvas here. And then we say set canvas here. Now, you'd think, why couldn't I just go right to this step here after? But when I did, sometimes it didn't load for some reason. So instead, what I've decided to do is set the canvas here and start a full refresh effect where, okay, now the canvas is set. Now we go back into this effect. I guess this might trigger again. No, this wouldn't trigger again because the canvas is not related to this. This one would trigger a second time. Then the canvas exists. So then it loads the files. So now Space Cadet's ready to load. We got the canvas. It's there. Yeah, so it loads the files and then just disables loading, and that's literally it. That's all that was needed. So there's no more magic to it. Let's check it out. Wait, we have to do build fs to get that shortcut because I don't keep the file system in my patches or in the repository. There we go. It's been ran. We'll go in here and press refresh. Maybe we'll reset the start menu too. Oh, what happened? Sometimes when you build FS... Oh, I'm not even running the dev environment, it seems. Oh, right, because I closed VS Code yet again. So we have to rebuild it once again. It's pretty fast. Let's clear this and start fresh. So we open it up. So there's Space Cadet right there. Looks pretty cool. Let's give it a click. There we go. We got a full-on Space Cadet game inside our window. We can maximize it and see it bigger. We can shrink it. We got the paddles. I have it muted right now. I'm not sure how loud it is. My kid's sleeping, so I'll just keep it muted. But it has audio too. You see it's playing at a decent frame rate. And yeah, like this is legitimately, you can play this just like I used to play this back in the day on Windows 98 or whatever the heck it was on. Definitely Windows ME had it. And this guy's got some custom options here. New game, launch ball. I'm not sure how high scores works. That might be something you'll have to look into to be able to save the high scores locally for myself. It's got resolution settings, although there's only one setting. It's got some FPSs you can try to set, music, sound. You can have more than one player. How does that work? I guess just different players. It's like, oh, it's players 2's turn now. And then, yeah, he's got his project home. I couldn't get clicking this to work, unfortunately. I don't know if he expects that to work, but even on his website, clicking this didn't work or do anything. Otherwise, yeah, it's we've added Space Cadet, so it's another little feather in our hat for something our OS can do. OS, in quotes. So I'm proud to add that one. That's in apps, Space Cadet, yeah. So that was already on the list because I knew it was going to do it. and we'll just paste it in here, Space Cadet. And there's no other details worth discussing on that one that I can think of. With that, I'm starting to think we might be done here. I think we did all of these. I feel like, how are we? We're at an hour and a half in. Felt like a reasonably long enough episode, but I don't know if we accomplished a lot or not. So I hope you thought it was fun. That Space Cadet game was kind of cool. You'll get to play with that in a few months when I finally release my OS to the public and let people play with it. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you like this video, please throw me a like. If you want to comment after the stream's over, please feel free to throw some comments in the comment section. And if you really like my videos, throw me a subscribe. It's much appreciated. And then you can keep apprised of my weekly streams, 9 p.m. PDT, PST, Pacific time. That's about it. Thanks for tuning in. See you at the next one. Goodbye.